Episode 1 is The Fiery Cross, our premiere for season 5. This one was a challenging one to write. The opening of the book, Fiery Cross, a lot happens over the course of a day. But I think we did a pretty good job. I'll pat myself on the back a little bit in the sense that I thought it was, we got it all in there.
Yeah, well, I think that the difficulties Matt said was the gathering took up a lot of space in the book. Per our normal kind of TV Outlander style, we wanted to change it up and move the gathering to Fraser's Ridge and show up the big house, which is truly big.
It's a big house. One of the things I remember saying to Gary when we went to the location and plotted out the land, and I said, now, it's just called the big house, Gary. That doesn't mean it has to be a big house. And then he let that go in one ear and right out the other, and it became a big house.
But it's magnificent. I mean,
it is a beautiful
it's beautiful, and the land we found is so gorgeous, and some of the tracking shots we used and see it established is pretty amazing.
One of the things that is really special about Outlander is that we can show people in character moments being a family and being a community, and we wanted to actually show that. It's just not always bad times. You know, you have to show some of the good times to balance out the drama. So we wanted to have a big wedding, and Roger and Bree getting married, and we wanted to have the whole family there. It was the way of making the gathering more about the wedding than the gathering.
The idea of seeing Jamie back in his kilt is something we've talked about a lot since last season, season 4. When does Jamie put his kilt back on? And it kind of became a thing that it had to be a momentous moment. We didn't do it originally like it was in the book at River Run, but we were trying to find the perfect time for him to put on his kilt.
We wanted to make it a moment. I think that was the key. And you want to build the anticipation of, it's his daughter's wedding, why isn't he wearing his kilt? And it's that moment he makes that decision. If Tryon wants a Scot,
I'll give him a Scot.
And what's more Scottish than putting on his plaid and his kilt, walking out and showing the red coats there, but also all the other families. And as he says in his speech, we're not clan, we're not family, but...
If the time comes, you will all stand by my side.
He deliberately put this on in a moment that made him the Laird visually, and Jamie's a pretty smart guy, and it's a smart move to make himself look like a Laird.
Stand by my hand.
Brought the guys right in, so.
Well, also, I feel like in season 4, there was this idea of trying to assimilate into this new country. And you never leave your Scottishness behind, but still trying to kind of start a life anew. And this seemed like a fitting way. I do think the actors missed it. I think certainly Sam was very excited to put it back on.
Oh, yeah, we had to tear it off of him.
Yeah, exactly.
He
wears it
really,
to bed, of course. Yeah. We talked a lot about opening the season and where Jamie and Roger would be in terms of their relationship, and where we left them. You know, Jamie's still very upset with Roger about how he came back to Brianna, because obviously he chose to come back, but he didn't do it immediately, and that is the problem. And as a dad, you want whoever your daughter's going to be with to stand up, and Jamie feels like Roger didn't stand up in the right way, that he did not immediately come back and say, I don't care if the child couldn't be mine, I don't care, I love her.
But you did come back, and that's all that matters.
Just tell him that.
I think the funny thing in the underlying current is they both kind of like each other.
Captain Roger Mackenzie.
Captain. But this thing got in the way, and sometimes, you know, in families, things get in the way, and you don't just move them out of the way, then be friends again. You let it fester and grow, but that makes good drama sometimes.
It does.
Yeah.
Episode 2, this is entitled Between Two Fires.
In episode 2, we're kicking off really the stories of the season. You know, Jamie has to go out and find Murtaugh. You know, he's charged with hunting down this fugitive regulator with Lieutenant Knox.
I admire a man who puts duty and honor above all else.
He's trying to kind of walk between these two fires. Murtaugh's doing the same thing. His love for his godson and his new comrades, the regulators, and what they believe in. There's a line in the book that's...
He's walking between two fires.
And you, wavering between two fires.
We thought it would make a great title, but it also really is a great theme for the episode as well.
Yeah, you're right, because also Brianna is obviously struggling between wanting to be with her family here, but having a husband who's not happy here.
Her feelings for leaving or going is tough, because in her heart, she probably wants to stay with her family, but in her heart, she loves her husband.
Our family is here.
You and Jamie are my family.
And Claire, obviously is struggling with fitting into the society, but also wanting to make it better in terms of, you know, her medical knowledge.
And how far does Claire go?
I'm making penicillin, or at least I'm going to try to.
Do I bring science and my knowledge into this time that can affect the world as we go forward? Are definitely two fires that, you know, you're walking between.
It's dangerous.
There's something that we did in this episode that we loved it in the book, but we knew we weren't going to be able to do it the exact same way. It's Claire performing an autopsy. We didn't think we were going to be able to get to it where it fits in our arc, so we brought it forward and had her do it as a part of her trying to figure out, you know, how do I help people? Well, one of the ways of doing that is to find out what's going on with them, so she performs an autopsy. And then we also wanted to create more story for Marcelly, so we brought her on as Claire's apprentice throughout a portion of this season.
We learn by practicing on the dead, and I think you would be a good apprentice.
The dynamics between the two of them really worked out nicely.
Yeah, I know. I love that shot where she's butchering and Claire's like, interesting. I see something else for her. And you're right. I think their relationship is kind of one of surrogate mother-daughter, and it's a perfect job for Marcelly. And obviously we know Brianna does not like blood and isn't really someone who Claire could take under her wings in that way.
Right now, Marcelly and Claire are getting closer as they go, and this is one of the things that bringing Marcelly on as an apprentice will help Marcelly see Claire in a different light, but also help Claire see Marcelly in a different light.
Marcelly, you are kind and caring.
Given enough chance, she can blossom.
But also I think Marcelly struggles with her relationship with Claire because obviously, as we know, her mother is Leary. Leary and Claire have a horrible relationship. So I think Marcelly struggles between love for her mother and then love for Claire, who's her, you know, substitute mom in many ways and has taken her under her wing.
She's caught between two fires.
She's caught between two fires.
There you go. Episode 3 is called Free Will. We titled it Free Will because in this episode, all the characters have made choices and they're free to make these choices. That's what comes with free will, is you have consequences. And in bringing up the Beardsleys, these are the people that don't have free will. You have indentured servants, and you have a wife who can't go anywhere. She's enslaved by her husband. And so I like the balance between the two. You have a group of men making free choices, what they can do, and then you have these boys and a woman who have no say-so in their life.
There's something very strange about this place, Jamie.
I think we were all looking forward to this episode. It's creepy, it's dark, and we spend a lot of time in one place at the Beardsley house. And I think it turned out so well. It's just such an interesting episode because you come into it and you have a certain expectation of who this Fanny Beardsley is and what's happened to her. And over the course of the episode, your opinion about her changes and the situation changes and what she's doing. But it's such a dark, moody episode. And you know, we talked a lot with our director, Jamie Payne, about the look of this episode being different from some of our others. And it really turned out beautifully.
I like that we gave it the space to make it dark and creepy and haunting in a way that I think a lot of shows wouldn't do. They get through it fast, and instead of letting all this affect our characters. And there is an effect on Jamie and Claire because they're the ones dealing with it. So
yeah, well, also I think for Claire it's such an interesting dilemma because here is this man who is obviously, it turns out he's abused his wife, but she has to treat him, and it's like, you know, at what point as a doctor do you know, your Hippocratic oath has to kick in, obviously, but, you know, it's very hard for them. And what do they do with this man?
As a doctor, I can't walk away, but I'm not sure you owe him anything.
At the end, giving him the choice of whether to live or to die, and the question of free will, as you said.
And I think an episode like this, where you show the harsh realities of the time, and how people are treated in the time, how women are treated, how kids are treated, how, you know, how tough it can be. You know, we have to show some of the struggles that people go through just to survive. I think we do it in a way where you're showing people butchering food that they had, and then they're out in the fields and this is day-to-day existence. Going to the restroom is, it's out in the back. It's, it's not fun. So when Claire is thinking about this, it's weighing on her because Roger and Bree are back here because of her.
I want Brianna and Roger to go back to their own time.
What a dilemma. You want your family around you, you want your daughter around you, you want your grandson, to watch your grandson grow up and hopefully more kids, but she knows it's better and safer to go back.
What kind of world is this to bring a baby into?
The only world.
No, it isn't.
At the very end, people will notice that we had passenger pigeons leaving the trees, and they come over and they darken the sky. And this is something that caught my attention in doing the research during the time of all the things that used to be. There are billions and billions of passenger pigeons that used to be in the United States, and now there isn't even a single one. And so, of course, through the course of the season, we'll show some things that used to be that are obviously our great visual effects team has created for us, because we didn't have a live passenger pigeon, so we just created a billion visual effects ones.
Episode 4 is called The Company We Keep. It's just such an interesting episode because obviously Jamie and Claire are talking about what to do with the baby that they've taken from the Beardsleys.
Do you want wee Bonnie?
And it opens up an interesting conversation because Jamie and Claire have never raised a child together.
Right.
Brianna was not raised by Jamie, and that's a big regret of his. And here's a chance to raise a baby together. It's not ours, but doesn't matter. We'll love it. It will be ours.
If you think about Outlander, Claire was raised by someone not her parents. Roger, Fergus.
Yeah, that's our theme.
It really is the theme of the book. So what does it matter? And when Jamie says maybe we can do this, it just goes right along with why not?
But I think it surprises Claire also. It's it's a great sacrifice that Jamie says, I want to do this for you. One would think she might say, of course, and we have to take this baby in, but in many ways, Claire thinks, you know what, we have a good life right now.
Love our life.
And you don't need to add something to that, which I think is a really unique perspective.
One of the things we wanted to do with this season is keep Bonnet alive. It was tough because they don't interact, but we wanted to keep the cloud of Bonnet alive in their thoughts. So we used a device of plopping in scenes where we can to show what Bonnet's doing and what he's up to. But it also ties in nicely with what Bree is now, her struggle now that she knows that Bonnet is alive. Even though she's safe at Fraser's Ridge, she's hundreds of miles from Wilmington or really population, because, it's out in the middle of, it certainly was out in the middle of nowhere back in the day. But the haunting won't go away. That's not 100 miles away. That's right there in her head.
Her arc in this season is trying to figure out how to survive. We didn't want to just have that trauma go away after the first season, after the last season, but it's a constant reminder, as you said, and every time she looks at her husband, every time she looks at her child, it's a constant reminder, and to feel that he's possibly alive at this point now is terrorizing for her.
I can't help you, but then again, what you're thinking.
The reason she chooses not to share it with anyone is she really feels like, I should be strong enough to deal with this and not ask for help, and she's struggling with the best way to move forward.
A wee bit of a misunderstanding on our arrival.
And you cleared it up with our whiskey.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do.
This is the perfect example in this episode of, you can read all you want about history, but when you're actually faced with a situation maybe you've read about, or a similar situation, how you deal with it is completely different. Jamie sends him out to do something, and he doesn't do it according to how Jamie would do it.
Let's face it, who's going to live up to the Jamie Fraser standard? He is the king of men. So everybody else, at the best, is the prince of men.
Yes.
He's never going to live up to that. He's never going to be that guy. And I think Roger knows that. And he's just trying to struggle with, I'm going to be who I am, and then hopefully one day your father will respect the fact that I love you more than anything. Yes, I may have, you know, I was slightly tardy in arriving to River Run, but you know, things happen. We look past the fact that Roger made it from, you know, New York back to River Run on his own. So he had to be a capable enough man to make it in those times back to River Run. Jamie that makes a comment to Tryon in episode 1.
Sings like a bird, but no one for shooting.
It kind of sums up how Jamie feels about Roger.
Exactly.
Perpetual Adoration, episode 5.
I love this episode. At the end of the day, it's all about the impetuous pirate. We were actually very excited to get that in. We spoke to Diana. She was also very excited.
It's a book within a book.
Yes.
For those that didn't catch it.
Ah, the impetuous pirate.
Just something I picked up at the surgeon's lounge.
We had our department do a cover and we built the books, and one of them is sitting in my office right now.
And that's something I will be stealing.
One of the things we try to do, you know, during every season is we talk about time travel. One of the reasons why we picked doing a flashback is it keeps reminding people when they come into the show that there is this element of Claire as a time traveler, and we want to keep reminding people of that in a way that we're showing it and we're not just talking about it.
But this is a great episode about, obviously, we kind of go back with Claire and kind of have a flashback to her time as a doctor and kind of actually find out what propelled her on her journey back to finding Jamie. And we talked a lot about how through this character of Graham Menzies that she sees a little bit of Jamie in him, that a door that maybe she's closed for so long, all of a sudden these emotions come flooding back.
You remind me of someone I met in Scotland years ago.
Scotland, eh? I never stopped missing it.
It was a good way of showing how she made the decision to get back to him. Ultimately, you know, in the scheme of things, making the right choice for her. And that right choice was to ask Bree to go to England, wanting to tell her about her real father, not knowing how, but she figured, if I can get you to this place.
How would you feel about taking a trip to London with me?
But what's also interesting about this episode is if you read the script, actually, the story was told in a linear fashion, but in editing, we decided to kind of change things up and move things around.
You almost get the answer right off the top, and then you have to kind of piece together the puzzle that we're telling you, and at the end, you finally get the answer of, oh, it all led to Jamie. And I think that's the kind of the cool path, is all paths lead to Jamie and Claire.
Oh, Colonel.
What's kind of cool about the story for me is that Jamie bonds with this lieutenant, and Lieutenant Knox really admires Jamie.
Had we gone to battle, there's no man I'd have rather had by my side.
The bonding was very important in telling the story. So ultimately, when the proof that Jamie is essentially a traitor and he's related to Murtaugh comes in to Knox's possession, the great scene where Knox doesn't believe him when he says, "You're gonna find my name on the rolls," and he says, "Oh, you're just teasing me," and the shock and the horror.
It is written here that Fitzgibbons has the surname Fraser.
It's just the Donnie Brasco moment. You know, the undercover cop that's been playing you for so long, and then you find out that you've been betrayed.
What kind of deceitful devil wears the guise of honor and talks of justice and mercy?
Also, at the end of this episode, what do we have? But the cute little ball for Adso. By far, Adso, I think, is one of the more exciting new cast members we have this season in terms of cuteness, furriness, and interaction with the crew and the cast.
I will say the morale of the crew when Adso's, I mean, diva, you know, it's rolled in, lighting, makeup,
exactly.
all that stuff.
He gets all the attention. He's got a bigger trailer than me.
Rolo used to be the favorite, not anymore.
Not anymore.
New cast member of Outlander Season 5.